Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, June 21st. There's about 450 albums coming out this week. I got 18 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's about 450 albums coming out this week. I'm going to talk about 18 on the show today, so if there's something I don't talk about, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should all be available online. I'll put links down below in the comment section. Kicking off the list this week is the 10th anniversary release of Multiply by Ed Sheeran. Released in 2014, it was the second studio album. 2 LP release, it's going to run you about $40 online. This is a half-speed master, that version that is coming out this week. It's got the original 12 tracks. It also has 9 additional bonus tracks. I guess the bonus tracks have never been available on vinyl. Comes in a gatefold jacket. This is an absolutely huge album when it was released. It was the most streamed album on Spotify in 2014. Hit number 1 on the Billboard 200. It seemed there like most of 2014 you couldn't get away from this album, and it was everywhere. This is the album I discovered Ed Sheeran on. And I'm not the biggest Ed Sheeran fan. This is a really good album, probably my favorite, or one of my favorite albums by him. So you got that coming out this week. You also got the new album from Gracie Abrams, The Secret of Us. This is her second studio album. It's going to be on yellow vinyl. It's going to run you about $33 online. This is a follow-up to Good Riddance, which was her debut album that came out last year. I saw Gracie open for Taylor Swift last year. Was really impressed with her. This is an album I've been looking forward to since it was announced. I'm not going to pick up a copy of it this week. I'll definitely stream it when it comes out. So this is co-produced by her and Aaron Dessner of The National. Aaron's he's been pretty active in production work over the last couple of years. I know he's worked with Taylor Swift. He's working with a lot of other bigger artists also. Like I said, I love Good Riddance. I think this is going to be a good album also. I'll stream it and check it out this week. The next album is one I've been waiting for to get reissued for a long time. This is Poison, Native Tongue. First released back in 1993. It was their 4th studio album. 2 LP release. It's going to run you about $38 online. So this album really continued this musical evolution that Poison had been on. Really kind of started that with Flesh and Blood, which was released in 1990. This was released in 1993. So rock music really changed over that 3-year period, of course, with the explosion of grunge. Native Tongue is kind of a darker album than what they did previously. I don't think it's as good as their earlier albums, but there are some really good tracks on here. It's the band's first album with Richie Kotzen on guitar. He replaced CeCe DeVille. So, of course, there's going to be a change in music with the change of guitar players. I think it's a really good album. It's one I'll probably pick up. I don't have it on pre-order yet. First time it's been reissued since it was first released back in 1993. It sold really well. It hit number 16, I think, on the Billboard charts. There's some good tracks. If you haven't checked it out in a long time, it's definitely worth revisiting that album. And then this next one's one I've been waiting for ever since it was announced. I've got this one on pre-order already. This is The Story So Far, I Want to Disappear. It's their new album. It's going to be their 5th studio album. There's a bunch of different variants are going to be available this one. I know I think there's a Walmart exclusive. I think there's an indie exclusive. There's a couple of exclusives that they've got up on their website. There's like a book version of it also. Lots of different versions of this album. I will say that if you want to grab this, if you are a fan of The Story So Far and don't have any of their albums, they are selling a 5 LP. I think there's also a 1 7-inch that is included also in it. You're getting all their studio albums for, I think it's like $115 if you go on their website. So it's the version I pre-ordered just because I don't have any of their stuff so far. So if you're unfamiliar with these guys, they formed in 2007. They're a pop punk band from California, from the East Bay region of California. So it's like just outside of Oakland that they're from. If you're a fan of bands like Neck Deep, Knuckle Puck, Belmont, those type of pop punk bands, I think they're definitely a band worth checking out. I just got into them over the last probably year or so. I found them through Sirius XM radio and started listening to more of their stuff. I've really enjoyed the couple of singles they released off this one. So like I said, I'm definitely looking forward to the new album this week. Another album that's been long out of print that's going to reissue this week is Blackstreet, Another Level. Released in 1996, it was their second studio album. It's going to run you about $48 online, which I know is pretty pricey. But this is a music on vinyl release, so they typically run in the low 40s to high 40s range. It is a 2 LP release. So this album was, like I said, released in '96. The first time it was ever reissued on vinyl was in 2017 when Music on Vinyl did a limited release of it. They only pressed 1,000 copies of it. It was on silver vinyl. If you go on Discogs and want to grab a copy of it, typically runs over $100. It's a big album when it was released. It sold over 4 million copies. I think No Diggity was the big track on there, or the only big track I know of off this album. Hit number 3 or number 4 on the Billboard 200. If you're a fan of late 90s R&B, it's definitely an album worth checking out if you haven't listened to it in a while. So you got that getting reissued this week, and then you got the reissue of Sade's debut album, Diamond Life, coming out. It was released back in 1984. It's going to run you about $32 online, so this is a half-speed mastered at Abbey Road. Which the thing I always say about Abbey Road half-speed master stuff is some of it sounds great, some of it not so great. So I always wait typically until reviews come out to see how the reviews are before I decide to grab a copy of this. I will say that so this is also, if you look in the notes on this, it does say it was mastered from high-res digital transfers, so kind of keep that in mind. This album was huge. It's hit number 5 on the Billboard 200 charts. It sold over 12 million copies. I'm not the biggest Sade fan, but I've always loved this album. So, like I said, depending on those reviews, maybe I'll grab a copy of this one. So I have the next 6 albums all on pre-order. And when I pre-ordered them, my wife sent me a text message, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? Are they having some kind of Avril Lavigne sale online? But Avril Lavigne is releasing her greatest hits compilation this week. She's also releasing most of her catalog on colored vinyl. Most of them have bonus tracks that aren't available on any other versions. I do have older presses of her other albums. But I think their music on vinyl releases, they sound really good, but because these have bonus tracks, I decided to grab all these this week. So the first one is Let Go, released in 2002. It was her debut studio album. It's going to be on red vinyl. It's going to be a 2 LP release. It's going to run you about $38 online. Huge album when it was released. This is the album that made her basically an overnight sensation. Sold over 16 million copies, hit number 2 on the Billboard charts. It was a great way to kind of kick off her career. I think Skater Boy was the first big track off of that one. So you got that one coming out. You also got Under My Skin, which was released in 2004. Her second studio album. It's going to be on gray vinyl. It's going to be $30. This is also the only album of all of her reissues. It's only a 1 LP release. It was a darker album. It was a heavier album than her debut. It kind of moved into more of like a post-grunge album than anything like pop punk like her first album was. Like I said, definitely darker themes through this album. It didn't sell as well. It did hit number 1 on the Billboard charts. It was her first number 1 album. It only sold 10 million copies, which I know only 10 million copies, but it was still a big album. I think, kind of comparing her first 2 albums, I think this is a better album than her debut. There's also a reissue of The Best Damn Thing coming out this week. This is Avril's 3rd studio album. It was released in 2007. It's going to run you about $33 online. It is a 2 LP release. There's a black version, which looks like the standard release is going to be available in all your local record stores. And there's also a pink version. I think the pink version is just exclusive to her website. I did pre-order it from there. So this one it was their second straight number 1 album, sold over 6 million copies worldwide. There are 5 bonus tracks that are going to be available on this release. Never available on vinyl before. I think it was only digital and CD versions had these bonus tracks on it. It's a great album. It's different than her first 2 albums. This one was actually produced by Rob Cavallo. Of course, Rob worked on Dookie with Green Day. He also did Nimrod. He did American Idiot. I think he did Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. He's done a lot of stuff with like Goo Goo Dolls. Rob has produced a lot of great albums. Personally, I think this is probably her best album. I kind of go back and forth. I do love this album. I also love her next album also, which is Goodbye Lullaby, which is also getting reissued this week. It was released in 2011. It was her 4th studio album. It's going to be on green vinyl. It's a 2 LP release. It's going to be about $35 online. Like I said, I kind of go back and forth between this album and The Best Damn Thing as what album is her best album. This is where her music kind of transitioned though. She started getting a little more poppy on this album. It was produced by Max Martin and Shellback, which, of course, a couple years after this album was released, they produced in 1989 with Taylor Swift. And it has kind of that, I can kind of hear some of that on this album, even though it still has some of that pop punk, post-punk stuff that she was doing earlier in her career with a lot of poppiness kind of mixed in there. It's a little more poppier on Goodbye Lullaby. But, I love this album. I love a lot of the tracks on here. This one actually comes with a bunch of bonus tracks. You're getting 9 additional tracks on this album that haven't been available on vinyl before. So it's another one I'm looking forward to. And then that brings me to her self-titled album, which was released in 2013. It was her fifth studio album. It's going to be on light blue vinyl. It's 2 LP release. It's going to be about $38 online. So with this album got a lot of really mixed reviews. And I think there are some good stuff on here. I think there's also some pretty cringy songs on this album also. It was like, she was almost going for this like kind of carefree, feel good vibe on this album. Some of it works. I think some of it kind of comes across as kind of forced and unauthentic also. I listen to it, every now and again, but it's probably my least favorite album from her. So you got that. That's the last of her studio albums that's getting reissued. And then like I said, you also get this greatest hits compilation that's coming out. This is gonna run you about $34 online as a 2 LP release. There's a black version. There's also a neon green version. The neon green version is going to be the Target exclusive. 20 tracks from across her career. So this is the first time she's released a standalone greatest hits compilation. There was a greatest hits compilation that was part of I think it was a Japanese CD version of Love Sucks when it came out, and it's like, I was trying to get a copy of that CD, and it's like $60 online. So I'm not going to pay that much money for it. I'm glad to see that the greatest hits compilation is going to be a standalone release coming out this week. Definitely, like I said, I've already got pre-ordered on vinyl. I'll probably grab a copy of it on CD also. And then the last 6 albums on the list are all from AC/DC. They're part of this 50th anniversary series that they started doing earlier this year. The first wave was like all their bigger known albums. This is like the second wave of releases we're getting this week, and they're all around $35. The first one is Let There Be Rock. This was released in 1977. It was their 4th studio album. It's going to be on gold vinyl. So this is the last album to feature Mark Evans on bass. And the funny thing was about this album, they went in the recording studio. Well, I guess before they went in the recording studio, they were almost dropped by their label. Even though they had success with their first 4 albums. I don't know what the issue was with the label, but the band found out about it and they were just pissed, like you would expect them to be. They went into the studio on fire, recorded an incredible album. Of course, it was met with a bunch of great reviews. I love the Bon Scott era from AC/DC, and I want to have all of them on vinyl, so I probably will grab this one this week. And then the next album is 74 Jailbreak. This was released in 1984. This is an EP. It's a 5-song EP. I don't know why it's $35. That's the thing. As much as I like some of the tracks on here, it's probably what's going to stop me from buying it. It's also going to be on gold vinyl. So the first 4 tracks, or 4 of the 5 tracks, were recorded in 74. They were on the Australian version of High Voltage. And then the title track was recorded in 76, was on the Australian version of Dirty Deeds. So all the tracks had been available before. Like I said, 5 songs for $35. As much as I like some of the tracks on this, I can't spend that kind of money for that one. There's also a reissue of Ballbreaker coming out this week. This was released in 1995. It was their 13th studio album, also on gold vinyl, also about $35 online. This is the only album that the band worked with Rick Rubin on. I know there's a bunch of tension between the band and Rick during the recording process. The band said he wasn't even there most of the time. They felt his focus was, because at the same time he was off working with Red Hot Chili Peppers on One Hot Minute, so they kind of felt his focus was more with that project than what they were working on. But musically, I don't think it really hurt the album. This is a follow-up to The Razor's Edge. I think musically it's kind of a continuation of what they're doing on there. I think Razor's Edge is a little bit better of an album than Ballbreaker, but I do like a lot of the stuff on this one. And then you also got a reissue of Stiff Upper Lip coming out. This was released in 2000. It was their 14th studio album, also on gold vinyl, also $35. So this is kind of a return to an older sound for the band. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they brought George Young back to produce. It was the first album he worked on with the band on, I think, over a decade. He had been since he worked with the band. And it kind of came through. I think this is a better album, like overall. Comparing this to Ballbreaker, I think this is a better album. The next album is one that I haven't listened to. I think I've only listened to it once, and it was shortly after it was released. I need to go back through and listen to it again this week. This is Rock or Bust. It was released in 2014. It was their 16th studio album. Gold vinyl. It's going to be about $35 online. So this is the first album with Stevie Young on guitar. He replaced Malcolm Young. And because of that change in music, or change in guitarists, I didn't really know what to expect the first time I listened to it. It's a better album than I was expecting, but it's still not my favorite from the band. It still hit number 3 on the Billboard charts. It charted pretty well. It got a lot of really good reviews. But like I said, I need to go back through and listen to it because it's been almost 10 years since I've listened to that one. So that's coming out. And then the last one on my list is If You Want Blood, You Got It, released in 1978. It's going to be about $35 online, gold vinyl. So this was recorded in, I think it was April. Yeah, April of 78 in Glasgow. It is the only live album from the Bon Scott era. The interesting thing about this release is the band was planning on putting together a greatest hits compilation. They decided to scrap all that and just do a live album instead. There is the concert that this is taken from was also filmed, but I don't think that, as far as I know, the film has never been released. I'd love to see them do a deluxe version of this and release the video of it with it also. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Like I said, a lot of great stuff coming out this week. Of course, I got all those Avril Lavigne albums on pre-order. I might grab a couple of those AC/DC albums. I got all those Stories So Far albums on pre-order. A couple others I'll check out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.